Here at Pleasure Beach, you may get a bit wet on infusion. But whatever the weather, the fun always shines. Pleasure Beach Blackpool sponsors the weather.
Some better weather news to wake up to this morning. We aren't going to see that much rain today, which is fabulous because I know it's been getting us all down these past couple of days. Do take your brolly to work because you will see just a few showers just hit us this morning. Not going to last too long because lots of sunshine is expected as the day moves on, and a lot milder than it has been the past couple of days. We're reaching highs of 19 in Preston, over in Macclesfield the same type of temperatures, and the rest of the region is going to see highs of 18. Not a lot of wind about as well, which we've seen for the past few days, so it is going to feel a lot warmer than that. And as you can see by tea time, really nice picture out there, really clear sky, some more spots of sunshine creeping through and very dry out there. Make the most of it tonight because tomorrow the rain is on its way back, I'm afraid. We are going to see quite a wet Thursday. Friday, well, it's drying up slightly, and then Saturday in time for the weekend we are going to see a fair bit of sunshine around. Sunday, we've got it pinned for being a lot of a rainy day, but fingers crossed that weather might change.
Cheers, Michelle. Now, you may have heard, unless you've been on Mars, that we are experiencing a difficult economic climate, or credit crunch is a new buzzword. A new book, Surviving the Credit Crunch, is soon to hit the bookshelves, written by Richard Fenton, MD for the UK arm of International Debt Recovery Specialists, and he's here this morning to give us some top tips.
Richard, thanks for joining us again this morning. Last time you were in, we were doing exercises and all sorts.
I was bouncing around the studio.
You were indeed. But you've given us some categories because I think this is something that it does need to be broken down. It can be really confusing and baffling people regards to looking after their finances. And we'll start with giving yourself a financial health check, kind of like a money MOT.
Yeah, exactly. The key thing is to keep everything as simple as possible. One of the big pitfalls people fall into is just trying to avoid the current situation. Very simply, just grab yourself a piece of paper, 2 columns, income versus expenditure. And what you're looking for, obviously, is for your income to outnumber that of your expenditure. If at the end of the expenditure column you've got a negative figure, then it's time to take a look at some of the things on that expenditure list and get rid of some things, you know, get rid of some things that you don't need to be spending money on. Are you using that gym membership, for example?
Probably a lot of us are guilty for. We'll come to some of the ways in which we can cut back in just a little minute, but I see here, get your credit report. Now, obviously, if you look into lenders, whether that be for a mortgage or a loan or consolidating your debts in some way, that's what they're going to check. So surely it's very important that we're aware of kind of how we look on paper. How do you go about doing that?
Again, it's a very, very simple exercise. The advent of the internet has opened all sorts of doors which previously were closed to the consumer. Your credit file is a vital piece of information. It's the first thing any potential lender will look at. But from a credit management point of view, it also gives you an instant snapshot of your current financial situation. For example, you'll receive an overall credit score. The higher the score, the better proposition you are. The lower the score, the more likely you are to be overextending on your current financial position. It's also a very useful tool for detecting fraud. You may see things on your credit file that you're not aware of. A credit card. If you see a credit card that's been opened in Brazil, for example, it may be time to call Experian or Equifax, query that and have it removed from your credit file.
Where do you get this credit file from?
The biggest provider currently would be Experian. Just tap in credit file on any search engine on the internet and it will bring it up instantly. Costs you about £4 or £5 and you get the full picture of your credit file.
OK, next one. Sounds quite obvious, but I suppose it's something that people still do dismiss. Cut your use of credit cards and store cards.
Yeah. I think one of the first things people do when they begin to feel the financial pinch is to rely on instant credit that have available in the wallets. And, of course, credit cards, and in particular store cards, are a very expensive way of buying things. Credit cards should only really be used for one-off purchases that can be paid for on the monthly statement. If you're at the max of your credit card, if you have 2 or more credit cards, then the danger signs are there. Also, be wary of 0% transfers as well. Those deals only last for a short and limited period. And if you don't pay off during that 6-month period where the interest is free, then all of a sudden the interest rates kick in and you're paying a very expensive price for your credit. Also, if you're using credit cards for things like everyday costs, such as your weekly shopping bill, again, that's another danger sign, and it's time to cut up the credit cards and start paying them back.
It's the invisible money syndrome, isn't it? Absolutely. It's the fact, out of sight, out of mind, just stick it on a card. you don't realise, it's not real money.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's almost like it's somebody else's money, it's somebody else's problem. But of course, with the credit crunch being the way that it is, the credit card firms are now clamping down and are going to come back to you very, very quickly.
OK. Next tip, shop around.
Shop around, yeah. It's a common fact that most people will shop in the same supermarket week after week simply because it's just up the road, it's the closest one to them, and it's not necessarily going to give you the best deal. There's some good price comparison websites out there where you can actually type in your usual weekly shopping bill and it will actually tell you that supermarket A is better than supermarket B, for example. Right. It might just be a couple of extra miles up the road. Usually if there's one big supermarket, there's two. There's always competition. And where there's competition, there's bargains to be had. When you're going around the supermarket, look for the offers. You know, you may get a 2-for-1 on beans or any number of products. But again, don't fall into the trap of getting something just because it's on offer. If it's something that you don't normally buy, it's not a bargain. It's just an extra cost on the end of your shopping bill.
And it usually ends up in the bin.
Absolutely.
Because you don't have time to eat it.
Well, here's a niggly one, because Nikki was talking to you before the break about this one. Switching your energy supplier. With the rise of fuel prices, are they not just much of a muchness these days, Richard?
No. Again, everybody's in competition to get your cash. The credit crunch is not just felt by the consumer, the man in the street, it's felt by businesses across the board. So if British Gas want your business, then it's fair to say that E.ON want your business. And since the deregulation, you can buy both in one shop. You can buy your gas and your electricity. And again, Uswitch, excellent website. Pop in your details, your average monthly spend or your average yearly spend, and again, it will give you an alternative to the current supply that you have.
It's one of the problems of that, though, that they have these introductory offers. So you switch, you might have to pay sort of an admin fee to who you're with currently, and then all of a sudden, who you switch to puts the prices. How do you protect yourself against something like that?
I think you mentioned earlier about trying to lock yourself into a scheme where you can have your prices fixed over a set period. Pretty much the same way as a fixed-term mortgage. Again, it's all about shopping around. If you just take that extra half hour to an hour to look on the various websites that are out there, get yourself the best deal. And ask the question. You can always negotiate with anybody, no matter how big they are. Again, they're chasing your business. And quite often, the best deals are not the advertised deals.
OK, are we getting carried away with our communication technology? Everybody wants an iPhone, everybody wants a phone that can store the most music on it, or this, that, the other. Do we need to perhaps become a little bit more thrifty?
Mobile phones, a wonderful invention, wonderful invention. But again, it's a credit trap. Rather interesting, your mobile phone, as opposed to your landline, is something that is viewed on your credit file for a very good reason. It is a credit agreement. And the mobile phone companies and airtime providers are very clever people. Text messaging is seen as a cheap alternative to a phone call. It is by far the most expensive way to communicate with somebody.
Really?
A 2-minute phone call is probably worth a 500-word text message. As soon as you text somebody, they're going to text you back. Another question, another conversation. Before you know where you are, 20 text messages later, you've spent £2-3, whereas a 2-minute phone call would have cost you less than 10 pence.
See, that's all the convincing I needed. I hate texting. Gets right on my nerves.
And it's more sociable as well to make that call.
Yeah.
As a famous telecoms firm said, it's good to talk. Yeah.
Indeed.
And just quickly, because we are running out of time, but we keep being told about this, and it's obviously a good way of saving the environment as well, but check in your use of electricity. So we're all big fans of leaving things on standby overnight or plugged in. How much of a difference can that make in terms of our monthly and weekly bills?
It's quite surprising the difference you can make. If you take things off standby in your home, and if you think about it, there's probably more things on standby than you realise. TV, PC, VCR, DVD recorder. If you switch them off before you go to bed at night, you can knock 10% off your annual bill.
Wow.
If you turn the thermostat down just 1 degree, you can save another 10%. That's 20% off your bill. And with the ever-growing costs of bills, that could save you a couple of £100 in a year.
Excellent, some great tips.
Thanks, Richard.
Thank
It's really informative as well. Yeah, there's lots of top tips there. If you want to a recap on any of those tips that Richard just recommended there, then log on to channelm.co.uk, come on to The Breakfast Show, and we will reveal or put you in touch with Richard here.
Absolutely. Or his book's out in about 6 weeks. We'll keep you updated on that. Time for a quick break now, after which I flick through today's newspapers. Plus, we'll be celebrating 125 years of Stockport County and news of a comedy night in town. We'll see you shortly.